9, 8.
You're watching
7,
Experience Comic Culture and Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Everybody, and welcome. It's time for Minute to Skim It. There's books we have read, some we loved, some we didn't understand, but all are important. Oh, no. And if I seem punchy today, it's because the restaurant where I went to go eat my food while I was reading the comic books was also right next door to somewhere they had a chemical spill. So I'm probably a little bit brain damaged. So
Miss Jen is a little bit stoned, everybody.
I might be a little, I feel just like headachy, not dumpy. So.
And while I went like this, all comic books are important, but one of them I read this week is decidedly in the story that it exists in, not important to the story. And they tell you that.
Oh gosh, how funny. John's the first person in the room.
This is what I love about like seasonal specials and like Halloween specials and stuff. When they tell you, look, this is not canon. This is nothing. We're just having fun. And I can be like, yes.
I'm just getting excited because the weather has finally changed here because it was like in the hundreds, right? And we're getting close to the spooky season. So everyone's all getting excited about what their costumes are going to be. People are going to Renfest. We've got most of our stuff in for the Trick or Read comics. It's just fun.
Yeah, no, it was, I left here last night at 11 and it was 38. It was snowing in Michigan.
Yeah. When do you guys start getting like regular snow?
Here where I'm at, it's a little all over the place because of the lake. We tend to get snow later, but get it longer.
Okay.
Or heavier than other areas around us. But like it was snowing in the Detroit area yesterday.
Wow.
Now, again, that was probably should have been a rainstorm, but there was a snap cold front that came down from Canada. You know. So like it was colder than average with rain that turned into snow.
I'm just reminded that we need to give some hearts and some thumbs up to Jay because even though he's not feeling 100%, he is still doing the stuff, right?
Right.
He's an all go, no quit guy.
Absolutely. Should we get into the books?
Let's do some book readings. Oh, this one was really cool. I actually took notes on this one because there's a bunch of stories that are in it. So Crypt of Shadows, just as a heads up, has a new character that's introduced, but it has really great stories in it. Sue Orlando, I can't remember their first names, Scott, Declan Shalvey, and then Gailey's got another story. But okay, so just as a layout, the first story in the book is by Steve Orlando, and that one is very specifically the one where the new character shows up. So it's Scarlet Witch related. There is a hostel, which looks like it's coming alive and trying to kill everybody that's in it, like shooting its nails at their faces and etc. And a guy shows up and announces himself as the bricklayer, who says that not only is he the house, he's part of the haunting of the house because of something that happened on the land long ago, and so he's even part of the dirt. So if you make bricks out of the dirt that he's part of, then he was still part of the haunting. So that was super scary. I like that one a lot. The second story is Deadpool related, and it happens in a museum and is Egyptian related. So you might recognize some of the characters there. The third one is by our good friend Declan Shelby. I like this one very much. This one had a Man-Thing as a character that interacts with Daredevil. It's a little bit, like Daredevil has always had faith as one of his main things, right? This Catholic guy. And part of this storyline, the playthrough line, is about having not necessarily faith in a higher power, but faith in something really strongly. And that's how the storyline interacts most importantly with Man-Thing, because you can't be fearful around Man-Thing. It will whirl you up into a big crisp ball. And then the last one has Hulk Farine, which I wasn't expecting to see. And it has Kraven the Hunter and another werewolf character. I don't know if it's just the werewolf. I wasn't really sure, but that one is also a really good story. Sometimes when they put out these series, you're just kind of like, well, it's something you can skip this week. But I felt like this one specifically, you would get a lot of joy out of, and it'll get you in the mood for the spooky season.
And when you see these anthologies and you see Steve Orlando, just know he likes to introduce new characters that he's going to use in other things.
Yeah, he does.
In these books. Like, that's kind of his MO. So just know that when you see that going forward, probably worth picking up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, so jealous.
All right. So this is a book about animals doing people things. If those animals, well, one animal in particular was also Hannibal Lecter.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
Essentially, this is the story of a serial killer. Spoilers, I guess.
It was in the solicitation for this, so
I understand, but still spoilers. And the lengths that the serial killer will go to not be found out.
Ooh.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Where Monsters Lie meets Winnie the Pooh. Cute but stabby is another word you could use to describe this book. Basically, the same rules that they kind of list in Where Monsters Lie are true in this book. You don't poop where you eat.
Mm-hmm.
Except do bears poop in the forest?
I just love the story, the name of it. It's trying for the longest title, I guess, but also it's awesome.
True. So like I said, this is a cute but stabby book. This hits all of my triggers, right? Animals doing people things. If those people were the most deplorable people.
I didn't know if that would put it off your radar of things you liked. If you liked more just regular.
Animals doing people things is always fun for me.
Anything's good. Okay.
I will say this, if you're particularly religious, there might be a slightly triggering thing for you in this book.
Okay.
And by that I mean, like, if you're one of those I'm so Catholic, is the Pope Catholic is offensive when people ask me, it might not be for you. So, otherwise, fantastic book.
Yay! Fear the Funhouse, Toy Box of Terror.
This is the one I'm jealous of, by the way.
Are you really?
Yeah, you got to read Timmy's story.
Yeah, you should.
So apparently my cousin. Because whoever this Northrop person is spells their name the same as me.
I know. I saw that and I was like, wait, did Kyle like sneak in there under a different name?
No, believe me, as much as Timmy was promoting his work on this book, if I was in it, no one would have heard the end of it for months and months and months and months and months.
So Fear the Funhouse is in the Archie horror line. Just think kind of like Killer Dolls. The first story was written by our good friend Timmy, he who owns a really great couple of stores in Ventura, California, and he's it's called Arsenal. Sorry, and he's going to be doing a bunch of signings in the next week or so, starting tomorrow, I think, at local California places, even going up all the way to Brian Hibbs's store in San Francisco at some point. So that's pretty cool. Feels like if you're for fans of like Annabelle or other scary, spooky doll stories, you'll love it. It's I actually like the first story of all of them the most, and that's not because I know Timmy. I just thought it was the best of the three. It should be.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be a little biased on this one because, again, there's someone who has got to be related to me and my good pal Timmy. So everyone buy this book. All right, so I wasn't going to read this, but I had picked up a book that, I'm just going to be honest, was so bad, I found myself getting angry at the publisher for allowing it. So I skipped it because I didn't want to talk bad about a book with its name on the screen and picked this up instead, and boy, am I glad I did. For the first time in a long time, Dynamite's Gargoyles has felt like an episode of the actual Gargoyles television program. My big hang up with this is that it hasn't felt like the cartoon. It looks like it, and it's written by the guy who wrote the cartoon, but it doesn't feel like the cartoon. This one does. It's Nash, who, is like the kid gargoyle, decides to go trick-or-treating. And in the meantime, there's an organization that's anti-gargoyle that is going to a Halloween party to get the gargoyles to fight them. Nash finds out, and he and the gargoyle dogs basically defeat the bad guys to save his clan, and he is accepted by the children of the town and taken trick-or-treating. So this is basically about how if you want to get the full-size candy bars, you have to beat essentially neo-Nazis, and then you get full-sizers. So just know that that's a plot point in this book. This was so much fun. It is not canon. It doesn't exist in the Gargoyles world that they're building, but it's just a super fun romp.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's possible that you did not get to read the first run of Granite State Punk, and that is okay. You can totally jump in here because there's enough in it, and by way of backstory and interactions with other characters, that you can jump in here. All you need to know is that if you like punk and talking a lot about music and music styles and going to actual, musical venues, this is for you. Also, if you like very spooky stories in which this main character has kind of found out over the last couple of books that he's in this long line of, essentially, we'll just call them Morlocks, because I think that's what you would like to call them. But he doesn't know how to use his power or control it in any way. It just manifests itself in gigantic ways with horrible consequences, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. And in this book specifically, he meets up with one of his other relatives who is he's a goth and a punk, which is funny. And they come up with a plan for reaching out to one of their long dead ancestors, or someone that might have the answer for them. It's really funny how all of that stuff happens. By the way, this is super disrespectful and full of foul language, and you will be laughing a lot because it is so in your face about all of those things. But it's real. Travis Gibb went on social media saying that he thinks this is the best stuff that he's been writing. And I tend to agree. Being someone who didn't get to read Granite State Punk, the first series, because it sold so quickly in my store, this one's a great place to jump in. Like I said, you don't need to know a daggum thing, because I didn't. And I read this as it was the first time that anyone ever saw this character, and it works just as well that way.
Yeah, and Travis is... You're right. He's doing some of his best writing right now. Ooh. Okay.
Right. Were you going to play some punk music for us?
No, I was going to hit like. Anyway. Stop. Okay. Anyway, Travis is on fire. I don't know why my computer hates me today. Travis is on fire. Travis is on fire.
Okay.
Okay. I was very excited that this was in the folder for us to read.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read Hack Slash in a while. And so there are some things that I missed. And there are some things that I don't remember. And I will remember because I'm going to go dig those books out of my boxes and reread all of the original Hack Slash. Here's what's killer about this book. Doesn't matter if you've never read a Hack Slash book before. This is Hack Slash Back to School #1, and it is an amazing place to jump in on a really fun universe. It's Cass, who you know from the previous volumes. She's a little bit younger, so this feels to me like a prequel. But I don't know for certain that it is. And she essentially, there's a manga called Assassination Classroom.
Yep.
Yeah, this is Hack Slash meets Assassination Classroom. She is in a school full of essentially different variations on Harley Quinn. You know, you have goth Harley Quinn, you have Harley Quinn, you have like punk rock Harley Quinn. You like essentially they're all variations on the same trope. But they are coming together in this school to be taught by someone who I'm not 100% sure about yet if they're actually a good person or not. About how to be better at being hackers. And not the kind of hacker you think, the kind of hacker that can also slash you.
Oh.
Right. So, they are essentially the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or, again, Assassination Classroom, but way bloodier.
I have a question for you. So this is usually Tim Seeley's deal. And it says Zoe Thorogood, who
not written by Tim.
Okay, so it is both written and drawn by Zoe? Oh, wow. Lost, because she just won like a major award.
It now, I'm not going to say that Tim didn't have his hands in it, but it definitely is not his voice.
Okay.
Which is, I think, part of why I'm like, this is a great place to jump in. Because you don't feel like you need to know a whole lot. You need to know a little bit, but you can, through the context of the book, figure out the stuff you don't know as you go.
I love that he lets other people play in his sandbox.
Well, and, Zoe Thorogood has been part of this team now, though, for however many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's, hey, I've got this idea. Can I take one? And Tim Seeley going, yeah, I'll just, Jonathan Hickman it, essentially, kind of oversee it and kind of make sure the tone is right. But yeah, it was really good.
I did not know that.
I don't know if I would like Megan Fox as Cassie. I would much prefer Danielle Harris.
Okay. Yes. So Invincible Iron Man is a continuation of that awesome storyline that's been bouncing back and forth between the X-Men and this title, in which, by crazy happenstances, Tony ends up needing to marry the character that White Queen is pretending to be to infiltrate Orcus. And so they're continuing on with this through play. And this one is about their honeymoon, in which they go to Hawaii. And that's a distraction. It's mostly about Tony's sneaking away from the island to go back to Krakoa to go and try to pick up this metal called Mysterium that the White Queen has stashed in her one of her many, walk-in closets, I guess, on Krakoa. And with the idea of within this book, it's really awesome to watch because he actually asks a bunch of other heroes to test this metal that he snuck out as a cane. And you get to see how many different ways it's impervious to different, sensings and how strong it is and all those kinds of things. It's really cool. This is, I think that Tony's going to need to have this armor to be able to have any hope against the way Orcus is. And by the way, Orcus has apes with PhDs. I'm just going to say. What?
Dr. Gorilla Grodd?
Nope.
Except that's DC?
Yeah, it's just they're agents, but they are
Dr. Detective Chimp?
It looks like there's multiples of them, so I don't think it's just like one PhD holding ape.
All right, so this is the one that is when we talk about things that are not important. This is the one that has nothing to do with anything else that exists anywhere. And it says so right in the book. Like, you see a lot of other Dark Horse characters in this book.
Oh.
And that's the intent of, hey, just know. These characters that you love and are in other books aren't actually dead. But this is one of those that it's an anthology. There's 5 or 6 stories in it. They're all little short horror, and the Headless Horseman is a misnomer. It should be the Headless Horsewoman.
Oh.
Is essentially Elvira or Svengoolie, doing the interstitials between the stories and kind of tying them together.
Okay.
I can't say that I had a favorite story, but I really did enjoy the bits with the Headless Horsewoman or Headless Horseman, where it's a pun about someone being beheaded or a pun about gruesome ways to die. Like, that was the fun part of this book for me. Whereas the stories were all good, but they're like 6-page horror stories. You can't really do a whole lot in 6 pages.
Mm-hmm.
You set it up, you pay it off, and you're done. You can't really build any suspense. So, again, the jokes and the middle sections with the Headless Horseman kind of going, hey, did you see, I don't know, like making puns. I don't want to give away any of the puns or jokes either. So that for me was the highlight of this book. If you're into Halloween-y, spooky style anthologies, this is great. If you're into Elvira, like from the old school Elvira show or Elvira, series with the movies, or you're into the Svengoolie or any of that kind of stuff, you'll have fun with this. But it doesn't in any way affect the overall Dark Horse canon, even though it could.
Looks like fun.
Yeah.
Jay Garrick the Flash.
Jay Garrick, best Flash.
Best Flash. Love him. Okay, so I don't know enough about his long story history to know if this story has been told before and this is just a new introduction to a character. It basically introduces this girl character right away, who I think is Judy, also known as Boom, who is his daughter. But the way the story rolls out is that she disappears from the timeline. She is stolen by a character that is known for his own purposes. No one remembers her. She disappears for 60 years and comes back. And even then, when she shows up and they go and do some heroics, it's unclear whether she then disappears again, perhaps, or is not even remembered by her mother. That kind of stuff makes me sad. But yeah, I'm hoping this is the beginning of a thing and not just a one-time thing, because it's really cool.
Okay. I like that this is a weekly book. Otherwise, I would have abandoned it. Because I'm not a Star Trek fan. I am a Universal Monsters fan. And I am a fan of the Borg Collective being not great at their job. And that's a lot of what's happening here now. Kind of the holodeck continues to malfunction. Triple B, the idea of this book is there's a problem not only on the holodeck, but the Borg Collective have messed with it somehow. And creatures or Star Trek crew members are going through the holodeck and winding up in Universal horror movies. And conversely, the creatures from the Universal horror movies, also as part of the Borg Collective, are coming through the holodeck. And it's causing all sorts of chaos. And so this is a weekly book. This is the third installment. This is the first book in the series that doesn't seem to move the plot forward necessarily. It's just primarily an action book. There's still some storytelling and some plot progression, but not nearly as much as the first two issues had. It seems like we've moved into full-on Jean-Luc Picard being very like wise and slow moving about things as he thinks things through in the story, as opposed to previous where it was more action, like just let's do something and see what happens. Mm-hmm. So it's a good waypoint in this book. So if you haven't read the first two, now is the time to go back and grab the first two and read this one, because you haven't read anything. You know what I'm saying? This book doesn't jump you that far ahead, so you can get caught up really easy.
Were you making a Star Trek joke?
If I did, I have no idea.
I don't know. Farpoint is one of their. You said Waypoint, but Farpoint's one of their deals. So.
All I know is, Nanu.
Nanu.
I was a much bigger Mork and Mindy fan than I was a Star Trek fan.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this one everyone's been super hyped about. This one actually takes a little bit of time before it gets around to the actual pulling together of the Justice League people with the Godzilla Kong stuff. I like the development of the story. It kind of very early in the story, it shows a Godzilla image, but it doesn't really explain what is happening in terms of how they're being forced together until a little bit farther on. So I would say if you were looking for a whole bunch of kaiju fights in this first issue, just wait. It's not going to be in this first one. You got to wait a little bit. It's neat because I think this cover is a wraparound cover. So when you open it up, you can see that they're half of the Daily Planet and then the things. By the way, you'll be not disappointed if you expect Gorilla Grodd to be in this. So, because he is. And it makes sense. Do I like the art? Yeah, it's kind of like the art that's on the cover there. It's good. So Legendary, I think, was very specifically told them that they have to look like their movie versions of Godzilla and Kong and the creatures that you find on Skull Island. So if you like the way that those creatures look, then you won't be sad. They because this is in conjunction with the company Legendary, which owns the rights to those characters right now. So
Okay. I don't think I read number 1 of this. I think Miss Jen read it.
did I?
But I'm going to tell you that this book features, towards the end, an Elapig, which is half elephant, half pig, and I'm in.
What?
That character would not have been in the first issue. Kill Your Darlings to me reads a lot like if Alice Never After, the Boom Studios book that's been coming out, was set in modern day.
Okay.
And Alice was less of a drug addict and more of a Menendez brother.
Oh, Lord.
So you find your main character at a facility for troubled children.
Mm-hmm.
After she lit her house on fire with her mother inside. Now, come to find out that her mother, ironically, bad moms is a theme in the books I read this week. It was also a theme in Hack Slash. It's a theme in this. That's a heck of an analogy. I mean, ain't wrong. She's in this place because she's killed her parents, and it winds up, it's a facility where they're taking violent kids and trying to rehabilitate them through drugging the crap out of them and trying to, do psychiatric or whatever, like, I don't think they're intentionally hurting the kids. I think they're just like, here, take all of these antipsychotics and let's talk. And so she's there, and at the end of the issue, she's breaking out with the help of an Elapig, which again is a pig with an elephant's face. Also, he talks vaguely like Robin of Locksley and shoots arrows that look like they have meatballs on the end of them. Look, I did not expect this book to take the turns it took, but I'm super glad it did. You come to find out at the end that she is the linchpin to, again, like Wonderland with Alice, this other dimension, this other land, this other thing existing. And if she doesn't come back to that other land, the demon that led her in the first issue to kill her mother is going to destroy this other land.
Now I remember this book.
So like I said, it's Alice in Wonderland meets, again, I think Happy. The Mark Millar with the talking unicorn plushie guy. Meets To Catch a Killer. So also there's some Romeo and Juliet vibes going. It's got a lot happening, but it's a super fun read. And again, this is a number 2. I don't think you need to have read number 1 to jump in on this number 2. I think it catches you up enough and pushes you forward enough that if you miss number 1, just grab number 2 and jump in on it. I will also say this. Something is killing the children.
Oh, yeah.
Be in on this now so that when it's something is killing the children, you can be all hipstery about it. I was there before it was cool.
Rumpus Room. I was so excited about this one. Oh my gosh. So to catch you up, Rumpus Room is about an executive who turns out if you cross him in some way or irritate him slightly or just ask questions you shouldn't ask. I don't know. Even if you're someone as innocuous as, say, the house inspector or the lawn keeper, whatever, he looks like he will just imprison you in the deep bowels of his house, in which if you anger him further, you might be deadified. So, and it's kind of crazy because his two guards are dressed up furry style as a giant plushy, like panda and a plush. I can't remember what the other creature is, but it's just unsettling, those things. So it's not like a sexual thing. It's not like Red Room in that way where there's like a sexual component to some of that stuff. This is more really just like him having power over people, no matter what. You find out in this book, there's other stuff going on with him that means that he's got pressures on his side, and also so the main character for the through story of the book is a female police officer who is shown up at his house for some reason or the other. I think she was really investigating the fact that one of his employees had disappeared, and then she who it just happens to be her sister, but I don't know if she mentions that. But she ends up down in the prison part with all the other people that have been put there, and trying to figure out what's next. In which they basically say, you can try to escape any way you desire. It will only result in pain for you and us, and you will not be able to escape. So that part's terrifying.
I read a Zenescope book, everybody.
Is that
32 pages of content is just the right amount of content.
Yay!
There were no fish people.
No fish, okay.
But I think they wanted there to be. Robin Hood has long been one of my favorite Zenescope characters. Mainly because I don't like many of the others. As many Zenescope books as we've read on these shows, I, have sort of bit my tongue on the stuff I don't like. Robin Hood has long been my favorite. This is a more Rambo-esque Robin Hood than we've seen in a while. A little more tactical, a little more Green Arrow, like from the show, not necessarily from the comics, and just kind of a super fun, Robin Hood story. I wouldn't say that the plot was the most in-depth or intriguing, but sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you just want a book where a lady with a magic eye and very little clothes is shooting people with arrows for being terrible. And you know what? You get it.
Accurate.
I will say this. The dark shaman aspect of this, any of the other stories that tie into the dark shaman thing, I'm going to read. Because that aspect, there's a magical aspect that comes into play in places that is very intriguing, especially when you consider that they could do stuff with like Van Helsing or their version of Alice. So that could be, I would love to see this dark shaman thing kind of lead to what I thought Zenescope needed to do for a long time, which is to get back to those big line-wide events that they used to do, where it's all of their characters teaming up. Mm-hmm. As much as I wish Dan Wickline was writing that thing, because the last time he did it was great, we'll see what happens with Joe Bruscia. This was fun. Like I said, the dark shaman thing is intriguing, but I don't think they do enough with it in this book to fully sell me. But I'm interested to see what they do with it with other characters, especially more magic-y characters, because Robin Hood, not crazy magic-y. A little bit, but not a ton. I realize I just said magic-y a bunch of times when I could have said magical, which is an actual word, but I'm going to stick with magic-y.
Magic-y is more fun. And more aligned with comic booky talk. So Sensational She-Hulk, it takes off exactly from where the last series was. It is the same creative team, so if you liked it before, you'll like it again. This one jumps off with a storyline that includes Jen's new boyfriend, his name is Jack of Hearts, which I know that character, but I didn't know really. Can't remember the storyline that he's been in since his, like little mini series forever ago. But I guess his power is he absorbs every bit of kind of like radiant energy from other things, including people. So the problem is, since Jen uses gamma, that it's dangerous for him to be around her unless he's completely absorbed up radiation from some other source, sun, hanging around nuclear reactors and such. So that's what he has to do. So he has to get all powered up, so much so that he's kind of dangerous to, might explode, but also isn't dangerous to her, so they can, canoodle. So it's a little bit about that part of the development of her new actual relationship, which she kind of points out that it's an actual boyfriend instead of being hookups like she's had in the past. And it also interacts with the characters that you see down below, in which I don't think she's formed it, but there is a fight club in which people get together. And, we don't talk about what they do. So that part of the story is interesting also. It's a pretty lighthearted tale. Not a lot of stress if you just wanted to read something to make you feel happy this week. This is a good spot.
Okay. This has got to be about over. Sirens of the City. If you remember this, it kind of started sirens versus vampires versus werewolves in a sort of modern 1980s New York. Where you have the punk rock clubs of like CBGB and some of those places, if they existed in today's time. And New York still felt vaguely like a, Iggy and the Stooges music video. It has since become about a battle amongst the sirens, which is probably why it's called Sirens of the City and not, Creatures of the City or something like that. But the other things have sort of fallen away with a couple of exceptions that leave you with this Romeo and Juliet West Side Story, will they, won't they, Ross and Rachel kind of thing. The main character is going against her family or her clan of sirens in an effort to be with I forget if he's a vampire or werewolf, and it's going to bug me now. To be with the guy she's in love with who is from a rival gang clan species. And so this issue is all about her kind of, it's not just a phase, Mom. I really love him, kind of thing. And all of that plays out with the volume turned up to 13 and the knob snapped off because they're sirens. Like, they have the ability to really do some damage, and they do.
Ooh-wee.
And so, like I said, this book has got to be about over.
Yep.
In terms of, I think it's either a 5 or 6 issue series. Ship gets mad every time I'm not wearing a hat.
I was gonna say your name becomes No Hat.
Anyway, so like I said, this has got to be about over, but it's been super fun. I'm anxious to see how it wraps up, what the end of the story is, and we will and whether or not they leave it open for another volume, because I think the idea of sirens in New York, especially one that is also part of like the vampire or werewolf clan by marriage, is an interesting thing to have.
Cool.
I changed my name.
Change your name. No hat. All right, spine tingling Spider-Man proposed to be the spookiest story ever. I don't know about that, but it is pretty terrifying. So the premise of the story is that Pete goes to sleep in his apartment and wakes up to the sound of people telling him to get his hands up and to, he needs to, get out of the bed and, explain himself, as police have surrounded him and told him that he is not supposed to be in the apartment that he's in, which magically is no longer his apartment, or at least no longer has any of his personal belongings in it. And also his landlord doesn't know who he is. And the rest of the story kind of plays through, in which he tries to go ahead and have interactions with all the people that he should know and should know him, in which nobody does know him, that's a pretty scary concept. But it turns into a really, really spooky tale. He tries to go take a ride on the subway or the train and realizes he didn't get a ticket. It's just a side thought that he has, really. But then this really, really scary character, which I don't think they ever give a name, but I'm going to call him the ticket taker, because that's pretty much what the character wants from him. It's clear that they've got to be tied together, this idea of him not being recognized anymore, / being unmoored from his own reality. I like this. I don't know if it's supposed to be kind of like its own kind of like what if through line for longer than this one issue. It doesn't end as a, it doesn't have like that's the end of everything. So it must have more issues to it. I really liked it. The art style is cool. It's trippy, like this art style here, especially when you get the ticket taker guy. His stuff is very artistically, graphically different than what you're used to from Spider-Man books. And it is written very well. They recognize the creator's name there. Ahmed is really good at writing spider adjacent books. So give this one a try. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you'll like it.
Well, and remember, Saladin Ahmed, who writes this book, writes Abbott. So they are a very gifted horror writer.
Yeah.
It's kind of their, what's the word for it? It's their lane.
Your microphone is now giving you robot voice.
Well, that's perfect, because subgenre. I was very excited for this book. But I said last night on a show Jen and I were on that this may be the worst trade dress I've ever seen. It's really hard to read subgenre. And as it turns out, it's really hard to read this book. I will say this. I think part of it for me was that the PDF that I read it on was not formatted in such a way that it did it justice.
Yeah,
because
so
I know
it's an oversized book. It probably was weird.
It was a little fuzzy. Some of the art was blurry. And there were a number of 2-page spreads that were split up in weird ways. So I will just say this. The art is wild. Am I still weird?
Yeah, it's just pretty crackly. We can still understand you.
Anyway, the art is wild. The style is strange. I couldn't tell you what happened in the plot because there were so many holes in it for me in the way I read it that I won't be able to give this book an honest opinion or an honest summation until I pick up my copy tomorrow. And I can actually, the 2-page spread reads like this and not, and I can read it in order. So overall, the thing about you need to know about this one is it's Matt Kent and Wilfredo Torres. So you're in good hands. Even if my initial reaction was, this might be the worst thing Matt Kent's ever done. I don't trust that opinion even coming from myself, just because I know I did not have the optimum experience.
The Man from Maybe. That is definitely the one that I read this week that I didn't understand. I don't think fully. It really is kind of a space western, but it has enough characters in it, and they don't interact often enough for me to understand fully what is supposed to be going on. There's like it starts with what looks like a moon landing situation, but when they take their helmets off, they're dinosaurs underneath. So it's a little bit of rewriting of history, a little bit of super crazy stuff. This is a pretty trippy book, probably for people that like things like Pink Lemonade or Rain Like Hammers, things that aren't made for just like regular linear storytelling readers. Something that just people don't like the cool people, the artistic folks. Dinosaur cowboys, I'm telling you, not dinosaur cowboys, dinosaur astronauts.
All right, I'm going to be short on this one because we're running out of time. And again, this is my friend Gavin Smith on art. The thing I love about this issue, and it introduces, I don't want to say it introduces a new character. It reintroduces a character I don't remember having seen in the Turtles for 20 plus years. They come back in a very, very small way, but they wouldn't bring them back if they weren't there for something. So that's important. But the thing about this book really is that this turns into a Venus and April O'Neil and the rest of the Turtles kind of on opposite sides.
Oh.
Right? They're not necessarily on opposing sides. But it's April and Venus are over here, and the rest of the Turtles are over here, and Leo will cross over and be with them and do a thing, and then cross back, and then Raph will cross over and do a thing, and then cross back. Like, they are not one unit. They are essentially, in D&D parlance, they've split the party. And that leaves a guy like Gavin with his art style a lot of opportunity to really explore a character like Venus and a character like April O'Neil. And so I really loved that about it. I think had they all been acting together, this story would have fallen a little flat. But because your main turtles pop in and out, and it's Venus and April kind of leading the story, it keeps it fresh and interesting.
Cool.
That's it.
That is it. As I was wondering, I was like, I can't remember if I had any more on my list. This was a fun week. I like it when they manage to get the spooky books released in enough time before the holidays to get people in the mood, because there have been years in the past where they accidentally kerfobble it and they come out, in November.
Right, they come out for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I can remember a Halloween issue coming out during December before, so thank you, all you publishers that have gotten it together, and all you writers and creators that turned in all your stuff on time. They'd be very happy.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to close this down because the mic chaos. It's because you weren't wearing a hat. You know that, right? Thanks, everybody.
I don't have my headphones on, and I don't have noise cancellation. There's a whole bunch of stuff not happening tonight. But I do want to remind everyone, comicshoplocator.com.
That's right. Definitely go to your local comic shop and pick up some books this week. I'll always remind you guys that small business is a tough business to run without you showing up on the regular and just giving them a little bit of support. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. you showing up here gives us support. So we appreciate that. Thanks for doing some liking and sharing, and tell your friends about us. Get them subscribed. Doesn't cost anything to come and hang out with us, and we hope we're helpful so you guys have the information you need to buy the books that you'd like at your local comic shop tomorrow. All right, everybody, we'll see you guys next time for Minute to Skim It. Bye, y'all.